Pacifica Radio, I'm Christina Onnested.
Get off our streets! Get off our streets!
Chanting "Get off our streets," Washington, D.C. residents rallied last night as federal troops conducted traffic stops on the city. The White House says troops will now be deployed 24/7. 43 people were arrested yesterday. This as President Trump says he'll seek long-term control of Washington, D.C. with a crime bill. He cited crime for the deployment, though it's down from last year and at a 30-year low. Trump has also floated sending troops to other major U.S. cities. A judge has yet to rule after a 3-day trial over whether the Trump administration broke the law by sending National Guard troops and Marines to Los Angeles amid protests against immigration raids. The trial ended Wednesday. Courthouse News Services reporting federal judge Charles Breyer grilled Trump administration attorneys about why the administration deployed the National Guard and why some of the troops are still there. The state argued the deployment violates the Posse Comitatus Act, which prohibits military enforcement of domestic laws. Lawyers for the administration said the law does not apply because the president called up the Guard under an authority that allows separate authority. A decision will likely be appealed to the Ninth Circuit and then the Supreme Court. Governor Gavin Newsom says California will redraw its congressional maps, the announcement to be made today after President Trump failed to respond to a letter from Newsom urging the president to call off his redistricting efforts to retain control in the House of Representatives. Newsom is planning a special election in November to redraw California's congressional districts. He's also urging Illinois and New York to create their own redistricting plans. In Gaza, 4 more Palestinians have died of starvation in the last 24 hours, bringing the starvation death toll to 239, 106 of them children, according to reports by the Wafa news agency, citing Gaza medical sources. Israel's new offensive has destroyed some 300 homes in central Gaza. The death toll, 54 people in the last 24 hours across the Gaza Strip, including 22 aid seekers. Meanwhile, South Sudan is denying reports of talks with Israel to relocate Palestinians from Gaza. Israel's deputy foreign minister met with South Sudan's president Wednesday. The Associated Press reported, citing anonymous sources, the two nations were discussing relocating Palestinians. Israel's far-right minister announced the final approval of a new settlement construction in the Israeli-occupied West Bank that includes 3,500 apartment buildings, dividing the West Bank into 2 separate parts, a move decried by Palestinian authorities as racist and colonial. The announcement comes as several nations, including Australia, Canada, France, and the United Kingdom, say they'll recognize a Palestinian state next month at the United Nations. Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich said to those who will recognize a Palestinian state,
they will talk about the false Palestinian dream. We will continue to build a fulfilling Jewish reality. This reality ultimately buries the idea of a Palestinian state simply because there is nothing to recognize and no one to recognize.
Investigators say Russia is at least partly responsible for a hack of the U.S. federal court system, compromising sealed documents that could expose sensitive sources and threaten national security. Officials say the breach, part of what may be a years-long infiltration, targeted cases in at least 8 district courts. Judges have been ordered to move the most sensitive filings off the main electronic system and even stop uploading them to Pacer, the public court database. This move may secure some sensitive government data, but it will also make it significantly more difficult for journalists and members of the public to access important court filings. The disclosure comes just days before President Trump is set to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska tomorrow. Negotiators working on a treaty to address global plastic pollution are discussing a new draft of the text that will not limit plastic production or address the chemicals used in its production. The biggest issue of the talks has been whether the treaty should impose caps on producing new plastic or focus on things like better design, recycling, and reuse. This because powerful oil and gas producing nations and the plastics industry oppose production limits. Social Security turns 90 years old today. Democrats and progressive Senator Bernie Sanders announced legislation to reverse President Trump's cuts to Social Security, including firing some 7,000 workers, called the Keep Billionaires Out of Social Security Act. And here in the KPFA News Department, we have joined other media organizations in condemning Israel's targeted killing of 6 journalists in Gaza in a media tent Sunday. As one of the only, if not the only, U.S. news department with a journalist in Gaza, we also deplore the conditions of our long-term reporter Rami Almagari, as basic foods like cheese, eggs, meat, and fruit are unavailable. He's now burning plastic to cook since fuel is no longer accessible. Our full statement is online at kpfa.org. I'm Christina Onnested reporting for Pacifica Radio.